Is there any questions? I was going to go over the chapter 3 homework. I want to go through it with you. But is there any homework besides that? Or any questions besides that?
I just have a question. When we're doing the measuring, um, do we just submit that photo or how does that kind of work? 'Cause I was a little confused on that.
Uh, so you're talking about the discussion board.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you just take pictures of the items and then you'll, just like you did your photo on the intro or the car picture, same way, just upload the pictures
Okay.
in your
Thank you.
discussion. Oh, you're welcome.
What if you like don't know like what length to like measure our thing? Because I feel like golf clubs are kind of like hard or somewhat hard to measure because like the head, it kind of like you know what I mean, because it like protrudes out. So
Right.
if I could like find the the height, like the length of it on release, you mind if I like just use that?
No, that's fine. Yeah,
I
I
can
would probably
I can
just
find it.
use the stem of it or the rod part and not use the part that comes out. Even though it's at a little bit of an angle, I would just use the rod part.
Cause I mean I looked up the average length of that specific club and it comes off as like about 46 inches, and you said something longer than a yardstick, right? So
Right. So that would work.
so yeah, this works.
Mom.
And then I also have another question. Will today's class be recorded? I have work soon, so I just want to know, is today's class recorded or not? Because I didn't want to follow along and do things with the homework.
Yep. Today, Mondays and Wednesdays, unless there's some kind of malfunction, I will always record them.
Okay, and that doesn't go against our attendance or anything, does it?
No, the attendance is turning things in on time.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay. Someone needs to silence their phone.
Don't move.
I'll silence it. Any other questions? Okay. We should have time at the end also if you do have, or you think of a question, write it down. Unless it's on this homework. But let's do the homework first. Oh, about the recording though, on Blackboard, there's one that says class recordings, and you click on it, and it has all the recordings there. And I also put my 9 a.m. class there because sometimes they ask different questions. So if you were confused on something, maybe you want to watch that one. But theirs is only an hour because they don't have the co-rec. But you could watch that one. Maybe there was something we did different. So I put both. So this is homework chapter 3. And these came from the book. I think, yeah, all of these ones. Remember, your answers should be in complete sentences. The only one that's a little different, the 1, 2, 3, and 4, these should all be complete sentences when you give your answers. This one is asking you to compare, so this will have a paragraph. Which is a minimum of 5 sentences. The other ones you can do in a sentence. Okay, so number one. In 2011 New York Marathon, $46,795 runners finished. Compared to 1981 marathon, where only 13,203 finished. What was the percent increase in runners who finished? So the first thing you want to do is always read it and see the information that you're given. Some things you'll use, some things you won't, and what the question is asking. In the problem, we do need these two numbers to know when these happened, but we're not going to actually plug these two values into anything. So some information is used and some information is not. Now, if we're going to find the percent increase, what should we use to find that?
I don't know if I did this right, but I kind of like looked at the question and then kind of basically turned it into what percentage of 46,795 is 13,203. So I kind of tried to do it like that. Was that right or no?
But the only thing is this was the increase. I mean, this wasn't the increase, it's the total amount. So you would have to have the 1 plus trick in there if you did it that way.
Oh.
We could.
Or subtract these first.
Oh. Oh.
We could find the difference and then add it to a whole, and then find that what percent that difference is to the whole.
Right. So you could have subtracted them first. Another way is your relative percent change.
Oh.
We'll do both ways. So we could have done relative percent. We'll do this one first because I think it's easier. Remember, relative percent change is new minus old divided by the old. And then since we want a percent, we multiply by 100. This would be the new value. This was the old one because it was older. So new minus old over old, that gets you your rate, and then we multiply by 100 to make it a percent. I rounded to the 10th. So I got 254.4. You could have rounded to a whole percent. It was up to you because it didn't state.
Okay, I understand what I did wrong now. Thank you.
You're welcome. You probably got 354 or 3.54.
No, I did this a completely different way. I don't know why. I just thought of like one of those questions where like what percentage goes into this and this, and I did it that way, but that was wrong. So
yeah, you could have done that, but you needed to subtract first.
yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so any questions on this way? Another way we could have done the 1 plus trick. The reason we couldn't just do the percent of it is because they didn't give us how much it increased by. They gave us both totals. When you're using both totals, then it's a 1 plus trick instead of finding just the percent of it. So we use a 1 plus trick. Remember, it would be the original. And then 1 plus the rate that we're looking for. has to equal the total, the new total.
Can I ask a real quick question?
Yep.
So I can memorize the formula for the relative percent change, but I want to know what is 100? Why do we multiply by 100?
Because we wanted the percent. So if they just want relative change, then it's just this part without the 100. And then if they ask for relative percent change, you multiply by 100 to make it a percent.
Okay, but why 100? Is it just because 100%?
It's because when you have a decimal, you multiply it by 100 to get the percent, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Percent. So you always multiply by 100 to make your decimal a percent.
Okay, thank you.
If you didn't do that and you just knew that that decimal was the percentage, would you like care? Like, could I just
No,
write
as
it?
long because you would have gotten 2.544, then you would just
Yeah.
move it over 2 to get your percent, and that's fine also. So if it wanted just the rate, you would have had 2.544 or 2.5.
Oh, okay. So multiplying by 100 just kind of moves the decimal for you.
Yep.
All right.
Now on this one, if we wanted to solve this, first thing we'd want to do is get rid of the 13,203. Because this is multiplied, you divide. So this one has more algebra. This one you're just plugging it into a calculator. With this one, we'd want to divide by the 13,000. So that these would cancel and leave 1 plus r. And we divide these. And this is 3.544. We're still trying to get r by itself. Since this is added, we do the opposite and subtract it. Now, if you can skip steps, that is fine. So this is our rate. This would be relative change. We multiply it by 100 or move the decimal over 2 to make it a percent. So it's 254.4%. And you want to make sure you're always ending in a complete sentence. So from 1981 to 2011, there were 254.4% more runners that finished the New York Marathon. Any questions on that one? So you could have solved it either way. Any questions? Or two. In a recent negotiation, the union negotiated a 1.5% raise for all staff, if a staff member's annual salary is what is her salary after the raise? So we know the raise percentage, and we know how much the salary is before the raise. We want to find the salary after the raise. Again, at least two ways you can solve it. What's one way?
Would the 1 plus trick be one of them?
Yes, definitely.
Cool, thanks.
Because it's a raise and we need the final salary, we don't need how much extra money she's making. We can use the 1 plus. And does anyone want to say what they got after the 1 plus trick, or type it in?
I got 35,525. Cause in the percentage I moved the decimal over 2 places to the left.
Yep.
That's how I got that.
So the 1.5% becomes 0.015, because remember your percent has to be written as a decimal, which is exactly right. And then we're using the 1 plus trick, so it's 1 plus that. And when you calculate this, you will get the 35,525. So if somebody had a salary of 35,000 with the 1.5% increase, they're making 35,525. And remember, you need to put that in a sentence.
Would it have been all right? I just did 35,000 times 1.5% and got what the raise would be, and then added it to 35,000.
And that is the other option, yes. So what we could have done instead of the 1 plus trick, we could have took 35,000 of 1.5. So we want to find the raise. 0.015 and see what that gives us. What that gives us is the amount extra that the person's making. And so when you multiply those, you should get 525. This is the amount of raise. This is the new salary. Since we only needed the new salary, we were able to skip a step. But if you're comfortable with it this way, that's fine. So this is the amount of raise. We need to add it onto the old salary to find the new salary. You could have done it either way. Any questions on that one? Okay. So you could have done either way. Just make sure you write a sentence about it. Any questions? Number 3. In January,
Hey, I was still copying the last problem. I didn't get like the last part of it.
they are recorded also. So you can go back.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
I think I started the recording. Let me make sure. Yeah, it's recorded.
Finish.
Okay, so for number 3, it's States in January 2010, the National Health Expenditure Report states that overall healthcare spending in the United States rose from 7,421 per person to 7,681 per person. In 2007. I'll move my paper in a second. Okay. So they're giving us the amount spent on healthcare per person in each year. Part A. Calculate absolute change. How do we find the absolute change?
You subtract the new and the old.
Yep. New minus old. So the newer value is the 2008. 7681 minus 7421 gives us, what did we get?
I got 260.
Someone had asked about 1 or 5 sentences. All of these can be one sentence. Well, 3, you'd have to have one sentence for each answer. But these are all just one sentence, except for the last one is a paragraph. For one sentence, if it's more than one part, it's one sentence each. Or you can combine it all into one. But this should have 3 sentences. This is the only one that has to have a paragraph. Okay, so number 3. When we subtract them, did we say 260?
Yeah, I got 260.
And what you have to remember is when you're finding absolute change, the units are staying the same. This was dollars per person. So this is dollars per person. So from 2007 to 2008, the healthcare spending increased by $260 per person. Now you have to make sure you're giving that complete sentence so I know that you understand what it meant. So absolute change keeps the same units. The other one, relative change and relative percent change, that's a rate. So it's either the decimal or the percent of change rather than the same unit. Any questions on part A? Calculate the percent change in healthcare spending per person. The percent change, that would mean your relative percent change. And that's the new minus old divided by the old. And then to make it a percent, we move the decimal or multiply by 100. So go ahead and find the relative percent change. I rounded to the nearest 10.
So would the answer be 3.5%?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, one person in my other class wrote it as 3%. Here, let's find it first.
Okay.
So we want it 7681 minus 7421. Notice that's the value you already found, the 260. So if you could start with this divided by the old. You get 260 divided by you get 3.503570947. Notice if you're writing this and you wanted to round it to the whole percent, this would be 4%, not 3%. The 5 makes this round up. So if it's 5 or more and you want to round to this position, this needs to go up to a 4. So be careful of that. A 3 would be wrong. Now, since it doesn't tell you what to round to, 3.5 is right, 4% is right, but 3 is wrong. So when you are rounding, you do have to round properly. So 3.5% or 4% is acceptable. If you kept more decimal places, since it doesn't specify, that's fine also. Any questions on that? And you'd have to write a complete sentence. Is everyone getting the 3.5 or 4%?
Yeah.
Any questions on it? That's it. Estimate the total amount spent on healthcare in the United States in 2007 and in 2008. In 2007, we spent $7,421 per person. How would we find the total amount that was spent on healthcare?
Would you have to go and look up the population?
Yes, or we could use our estimate. What's our estimate that we use for population?
I would say about 350 million.
I go by 330. The book goes by 320, but I haven't looked this year yet. If you look it up, 332.9 million, so 330 million still.
Okay.
Now it's up to you what you rounded it to, but 350 would be a little high. Somewhere around 330. So if we're getting 74.21 per person, and we multiply by the number of people, what do we get? Now, when you're multiplying these, you can just multiply it together, and if you do, it's large, so you're going to get scientific notation. Getting that 2.4489 times 10 to the 12th. This E is scientific notation. So it means 2.4489 from our large number chart, we know 10 to the 12th is trillions. So it's 2.4 trillion. Now you could write it also with all the zeros. That's up to you. If you did all the zeros, this would go 12 decimal places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Million, billion, trillion. I would accept any one of the three answers. This one, or this one. I think that this is easier to understand how much it is. This $2.4 trillion was spent on healthcare in 2007. I'm going to do the same thing for 2008. That's 7680. Now, if getting the scientific notation confuses you, another way you can do it, which gets you this, when you multiply all these zeros at the end, don't use them until the end. So just drop off all those zeros. 7681 times the 33. So when you have all these ending zeros, you can leave them off, multiply, and then put them on at the end. So if we just multiply them, we get 253,473. The number of zeros we left off, there was 7 of them. So then you just put them back on at the end. Approximately $2.5 trillion.
Would you then round that to 2.6?
Okay, so if you were going to round this, because this is a 3, it should be 2.5.
Oh, yes, okay.
And then if you're using the scientific notation, it's 2.53473. And then if you count the number of decimals you're moving it over, it's 12. So in 2007, the total amount spent on healthcare was $2.4 trillion. And in 2008, it was 2.5 trillion. Um, 3.5% or 4% increase doesn't sound like a lot, but it's half a trillion. Or no, I'm 0.1 if you subtract it. So 100 billion.
Yeah, it's 100. It's 100 billion.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah. So even though it sounds like only a 4% increase, when we realize how much money is being spent, that 4% is a lot. It'd be approximately 100 billion. So you'd write, you can put them all, these two all in one sentence. You'd write a sentence for them. Any questions on that one?
So what would be the full sentence that you write for that one?
So like this one, I would put in 2007, $2.4 trillion was spent in healthcare. And in 2008, $2.5 trillion was spent on healthcare in the United States.
Is it okay if I put from 2007 to 2008, there was a $100 million increase in healthcare?
Oh, it would be 100 billion.
Oh, yeah, billion, sorry.
But the question asked for how much total it was. So since the question wants the total, you need the total in there.
Yeah, the total increase, right?
Double check. Estimate the total amount spent on healthcare, not the difference between them. It wants the total spent in each one. So you could add that if you needed a paragraph, but you do want to make sure you use what it's asking. If we only needed the difference, we could have went with the 260 per person and multiplied that by, so we take 260 times the 330 million. We get, well, it would round, but we almost get the 100 billion. That's a little low because the 260 was rounded. No, it wasn't rounded. Oh, these were rounded. When we subtracted these, we rounded. But if you did need the difference, you could have used this rather than finding these and subtracting them. Any questions? I have a question. Can everybody see like my chat box and the like when people are talking and they show up more or if they move?
No, those left squares are gray for me.
Okay. I just wondered, like, if my paper moves over, can you still see the whole paper, or do they block it?
They block it.
Okay. I just wondered for my own, so I know when I'm doing things, if it starts going over, that you can't see it. Okay. Any questions on number 3? According to a survey conducted in spring 2006 by Northeast Department Advisor, an Acton MA research firm, the average monthly rent in Greater Boston was $1,355. An increase of 3.6% from 2005. What is the average monthly rent in 2005? So the average monthly rent in 2006 was $1,355. That's after a 3.6% increase, but we don't know what the value was in 2005. And that's what they want us to find. What can we do?
Would the 1 minus trick be a way to do it? Or?
You find 3.6% of 1355.
Nope. Actually, you need 3.6% of this one. The 1 minus trick was an idea, but instead of minus, you want to increase.
Oh,
Because it's an increase. The only thing is,
Yeah, you would.
Could you set up a proportion?
yeah, you probably could use a proportion.
So 1355 over 136% and
If you
X over 100%.
That would work.
if you found the 3.6% increase from 2006, you could then subtract that from the original total and get the one from '05, right?
Yes, but you wouldn't be multiplying, you'd have to divide. So one way of doing it, I like the proportion idea. What it is it's n over 100, because that's the 100% was what we started with. And then after a 3.6 increase, that would be 100. But instead of 136, it would be 103.6.
where did we get the 100% from?
Okay. So one way of doing percents is the n over 100 equals the part over the whole.
Oh, okay.
I think, yeah, we haven't done a lot this way. I think the other way will be easier to understand. But we could do it this way. No, it's 3.6 though, not 36. Because it would be, yeah.
Where did the one 3.6 come from again?
We added 100%, we're increasing it by 3.6. So we're going, our total is going to be 103.6. So this would be the proportion way. Now when you have that, this is an equal sign. You can cross multiply. So you take the 100 times the 1355, and that's equal to n times 103.6. You can multiply these together. And then getting n by itself, we would divide by the 103. We're getting this value. So I think the other way is going to be easier to understand. There's lots of ways of doing this problem, and that's why if you don't understand one way, let me know and I can find another way. In most cases, not all cases, but most of them.
So I did a different way before you did that, and I got a similar answer. I got 1306.22. And what I did was I took 0.036 times 1355, gave me 48.78. And then I did 1355 minus 48.78 and got the 1306.
Okay, so that wouldn't be correct. You should, if you do it a different way, you should still get the same answer. What's happening is you're taking 3.6% of this instead of 3.6% of this.
Well, yeah, okay, so from '05, there was a 3.6% increase. So I'm just finding what that increase was.
No, you're finding an increase for 1355 instead of for 2005. You would actually have to divide those.
What do you mean by divide? You mean divide 1355 by 0.036?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Wait, actually, hold on, don't divide by that. Yeah. What's happening is, here, I'll show you. Let me finish this one. So this would round to the nearest cent because it's money. So this 1 should round to a 2. So the rent in 2005 was $1,307.92. Another way of doing it is the 1 plus trick. 2005 value, if we multiply that by 1 plus our 0.036, that gives us the new value. And that's why you can't multiply this by it, you need to divide. But also, since this is the whole part, not just the increase, you need that 1 with it.
So if I were to, I'm confused. If I were to subtract by 3.6%, would that get me back to 05? Because you added, it goes back and forth.
You need that extra, the 1 in there though. Because we can't take 3.6% of this value. We need 3.6% of the old value. Now if we add these together, then you would divide by the 1.036. So since this is the whole value and not the amount of the increase, you need the 1 in here. Now notice this is here. If we change this to a percent, that's this value we had in our denominator. And that's why we were able to use this for the proportion. It was doing the 1 plus trick, but making it a percent. So when you're using the proportions, you're using the percents rather than the decimal. But that's why it was 103.6. It was the 1 plus trick written as a percent.
So the only reason I got close is because it was a little percent. If it was like say 50%, it'd be way off.
Exactly. Since this is being multiplied times the n, to get rid of it, we divide. And in either case, you get the same answer. The only time you'll get answers close but not exact is if you had rounded. But when we're not rounding, doing it different ways should still get the same answer. Any questions on that? That's the only thing that asks for, yeah. So then you'd write a sentence about the monthly rent in 2005. Now you don't need both of these ways of solving it. It's just whichever thought process you would use is the one you should write down and use. I mean, I'm fine with putting them both because that way then you can study both and see which one you like better. But you only need one. So make sure on these you're showing whichever work you're using or both of them, and then finish with a complete sentence that has the answer of whatever the question is. So once you find an answer, make sure it's what they're asking for. We found the rent for 2005, and that's what they were asking for. Any questions on that one? Wonderful. This is the only one that needs a paragraph. Boston Globe on June 30th, 2010 stated that a maximum deal for LeBron James would start at $16.56 million at the minimum and increase by 8% each season over a 5-year period.
So my calculator doesn't allow me to do the one plus trick.
I'm not sure what you mean. It won't.
I can't enter it as a whole equation, and even when I try to do it like broken up, it won't calculate it.
It doesn't let you take 1 plus 0.036 and get 1.036.
Like if I try to put it in parentheses, it won't work.
Oh, just add it separately first then.
Okay.
There are some problems. Well, you can do each part separately, but like the house payment one, if your calculator won't do parentheses, it could make it pretty hard.
I feel like I'm missing something.
Some calculators don't have the parentheses.
No, not that. If I ask Alexa what the cost in 2005 was plus 3.6%, I go back to the original 06. I go up to 06, so it's correct. But then if I subtract, I ask her to take away, like take back that that percentage, it doesn't go to our answer.
Yeah, she is just subtracting 3.6% off of this, and you can't do it. Well, you could do 1 minus.
No, but it's like if you add something to a value, you should be able to take that away from the new value to get back to the old value, right?
The difference is you're taking 3.6% of 1355, not 1307. That's why it's different.
Yeah.
So with percentages, you can't adding and subtracting don't go back to the original states.
Correct.
Okay.
Because there's that extra in there, so you can't even use like the 1 minus trick to go back. It will not give you the right answer. Because if we use the 1 minus trick, we're getting 1306. It will not get you back. So you can't subtract. You have to use the formula. You probably could use proportion. Sorry, this is the other class. You could use the proportion or the 1 plus trick, but you have to have. This is 103.6%.
But then the 1 plus trick that we used, is that adding the percentage to the 2006?
It's adding.
Because I got the n times 1 plus 0.036.
Yeah, you have to have the old value here, so this has to be divided.
Yeah, you're just solving for n with the 1 plus trick.
Yeah.
But then we get, how did we go, when we, I'm trying to figure out, like.
You can't go from this to the original unless you divide. You can't multiply because you're going backwards. You have to divide by it.
I don't know why this is so hard for me. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
You're dividing by 1.036, which is the n times the distribution. You're just solving for n. But n equals 0.05. What does 1.036 represent?
It's the whole plus the percent increase. So the 1 is the original plus 3.6.
Oh, because we don't know 05 yet, so we're representing it with 1.
Exactly.
And then you're using that as the original with air quotes and multiplying it with 0.036 by the n you're looking for. So you can then divide the 1.036, the whole in total, by the new, so you can find just the 05.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I got it.
Okay. If not, you got my phone number. Okay. Any other questions on that? It can be confusing going backwards like that. And that's why I always use this formula, because I know this is the old value, this is the new value. So then it lets me know if I need to multiply or divide. This works also because the original was 100% and the new one was 103.6%. I think this looks a little less confusing, but both are good. Okay. Number 5. So he's making approximately 56 million, and he's going to have an 8% raise each year. In the 5th season. Part A. Use the 1 plus trick 4 times to calculate James' salary in the 5th season. Because we want the 5th season, we're only doing it 4 times because the first one's already there. So this is the 1st season. We do 1 of them, it gives us the 2nd season. That's why we only need to do 4 instead of 5. Now it's up to you if you want to do it with all the zeros or not. I did.
So that 8%, I guess, is not based on the initial number. And that's why you do it 4 times then. Like you couldn't just do 1656 times 132%.
Nope. And part B will show you why it won't work. Because each season you're taking 8% of his new salary, and so it's more than just this. And
I didn't know if it. Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was based off of the original season or if it was based off of each new and coming season.
Each one coming, right. And so it is each one coming, and that's why the 32% won't work. Okay, so if we do the 2nd season, 1 plus, we could use the 1 plus trick. 8% written as a decimal is what?
0.08.
Mm-hmm. So if we multiply these, that will give us his salary the 2nd year or 2nd season. This, and we multiply it times 1.08. So 17.9 million. So then we take that value and do the 1 plus trick again. So now he's getting an 8% raise, but it's on his new salary, not the original. Let me just take it and multiply by 1.08.
So we don't have to solve for the very first one, so it's only 4.
Right.
They already gave us the 16.5.
Yep. They gave us the first season, and then we found the second, the third, one more to find the fourth. I mean, we wanted the fifth. So this is the first season. This is the second, third, fourth, and this will be the fifth. So by the fifth season, he is making $22,529,697.18. Now, if you want to round, you can, like they did, 16.56 million, 17.88 million, 19.32 million. So if you're going to round, you should round the same as they do.
That's a lot of cash.
Sure is.
Welcome to the NBA.
Any questions on part A? So of course this sentence could be used with your paragraph. You have to write a paragraph, minimum of 5 questions.
So do you want us, for the ones that require us to write a paragraph at the end, do you want a sentence for each step still?
Yeah, you would show these. Is that what you mean? You still want to show your work.
I show my work. I mean, like, after showing my work, should I add a sentence still, or should I just
Oh,
wait for the
no.
paragraph?
Yeah, for number 5, you can just write one paragraph. You don't have to have a sentence for part A. Yeah, just one paragraph. Put it together. Part B says, in the 5 seasons, James will get 4 8% salary increases. 1, 2, 3, 4. Compare the result of your calculation to a single 4 times 8% or 32% increase. So we want to show that you could not just take and add these together and use 32%. So using the 1 plus trick, find the 32% increase from his starting salary. You want to start with the 16.56 million and use 1 plus your 32%. Make sure you write it as a decimal.
So it would just be 1 plus 0.32.
Yep. You should be getting more than $1 million difference.
Yeah, it's 1,859,200.
Yep. So when you're talking about these large numbers, it makes a huge difference. I mean, the one problem we did in class, we were only talking around, I think it was 13,000. And so adding the percents, it wasn't off that much. Plus, I think the percent was small. But it wasn't off by as much as this is. This is a big difference. Now, so that you have more, since you do have to write a paragraph, And if I did this on a test, I would not only ask for this, I would ask for the actual percent change between those 5 years. They also call it when you're combining your percents, it's the total percent increase. And that's just your relative percent change. We would use at the end of the 5 years, the 22 million, and we'd use this one and use relative percent change. If you don't want to use all of this, we can round this so that it's the same as this one. 22.53, because this will round up because of that 9. 22.53 million. You don't need all those zeros. I'm going to show you a shortcut on finding your relative percent change. If there's any questions on getting this 21 million. So to find the relative percent change, we're using these two values. This is the new 22.53 million minus 16.56 million divided by the old 16.56 or original. And then we're going to multiply by 100 to make it a percent at the end.
Why are you doing 16.56 million instead of the 21.85 million?
Because this was the 32%.
Right.
We want to use, because that was not, you can't add those together. So for relative percent change, to see how much it increased, you need to use his salary after the 5 years and his salary at the start.
And this is for question B, right? 5B.
Question B was just this value.
So where's the question that's going to the percent change? That's asking about the percent change.
Right here. If I asked this on a test, I would ask for all three. And so I'm showing you how to find the percent or the total percent increase on part A.
Okay, but that's not a homework question for this one?
Correct.
Okay.
But since you need 5 sentences, it will help you get more sentences. But this would not have to be there. I guess next year I will.
I got 36.04.
Yep. 36%. So instead of 32% increase, it's actually a 36% increase from the original. Now what you can do, if you put all those zeros here, you can cancel them. Or if you write it like millions, as long as all three are the same, then millions cancel. But it has to be in all three. So then this just cancels.
I got 36.05072.464.
Yep.
So is there a formula that would give us the sequential percent change instead of doing it step by step?
Yes. We actually learned that in another chapter.
Okay.
I'll show you in a second. Because this is a zero, I would just go to 36%. So the total percent increase from the original after 5 seasons, in the 5th season, he'd make 36% more than the beginning. So it shows that you cannot add these percents. So when you're trying to compare it, as it asks you to compare, it's easier to have this percent so that you can see this was 32% to actually a 36%. Now, when you're trying to find more than one season, and I think it might be in the next chapter, notice we keep multiplying by the same thing. Each of these. What you can do is when you're multiplying the same amount, you can add the exponents. And so it's actually the original 16 and then 1 plus trick, so 1 plus the 0.08 y. Or, yeah, I don't like S's, they look like 5. So whatever season you're trying to find, you can plug it in here. So if you plug in 3, it's going to give you this one. If you plug in 4, it's going to give you this one. So you could plug 4 into this equation, and it will give you the 22.53 million.
I forget what the actual question was. Like I got the numbers and stuff, but I forget what they represent.
These were each season his salary.
Oh, okay.
And so if we wanted the 5th season, we'd plug in a 4. So this would be the formula, and this is what we'll learn in the next, I don't remember if chapter 5 or 4. Later chapters, we'll learn how to write the equation. So when you're doing the same raise each time, if you want to find it in the ending, then you just plug this for the number of years. Remember, we'd have to subtract it by 1. Any questions on that? So when you're writing your paragraph, you want to give these values, and the 32% increase would be this, which doesn't match these. Now it's up to you if you want to add this or not. You just can see this on a test, so that's why I wanted to go over it.
I'm just kind of having trouble like setting up how I would write the paragraph. Like I always struggle with like writing a paragraph about it.
Okay. I would state what each of these means. So I forget who it was, LeBron. LeBron makes approximately 16.56 million in his first year. By the end of, or by the beginning of the 5th season, he's making 22.53 million. You cannot just add the percents together and get 32% of it, because when you do, you get whatever we got, 21.8 million, 9 million. So you just want to explain each of them. I would do each one of these, that way it gets you more sentences also. And it did ask you to find each of them. But all you're doing is restating your question and putting the answer in there.
Okay, so at the end of his first season, he's still only making 16.5 million, right? Because that's the first season. Or do we?
Right.
Okay.
And then the second season, he's making this, and the third one, this.
Okay.
Yeah, I always struggle like with the paragraph stuff. So I can put it in 5 sentences, but I always feel bad because I feel like it doesn't need to be in 5 sentences. It's a lot to read. And I usually just put it in 1. So for example, I'm just doing season 1% change to 2 was 16.56 mil. That was then increased by 8% each season for a total of 5 seasons. 2 to 3 was whatever. Season 3 to 4 was whatever. And then it continues until I do all of them. Gives me 5 sentences.
Let's don't
Honestly,
forget to put this in there.
you can
How
get more.
that is not the same as a 3% increase or 32% increase, which would be this. Yeah. But yeah,
You can
you
get.
could. If you use a different method, then no, you don't have to know how to use the 1+. There's a lot of different methods. As long as you're getting the same answers, then that method works. It's up to you if you want to round these. If you're going to round, I would write it the way they write this. So 16.56 million, this would be 17.88 million. 19.30, this would go up to a 2 million. So whenever you're going to round, if there's rounding in the problem, use the same as they have, unless it states otherwise.
I still don't understand like what I'm supposed to be including in this paragraph.
Everything we found, all of this, all these answers, what they mean. And then if there's a 32% increase off of his original salary, it's 21.86 million. So it's not the same as the 22.53 million.
One thing I would suggest to get more sentences is to try have fun with it.
Yeah.
That's because that's what I do. Whenever I do this, is I try to like throw in like my personal opinion or something,
Right,
make it funny.
I mean, because you want to make sure you're answering these questions.
Yeah, the length is not the problem for me. I just have no idea like what like I'm so confused. Like, do I just like say that okay, so he made this many in his first season, and then in the second season he made this many, and the third he made this many, and the fourth he made this many, and the fifth.
You could. I mean, the question only asks if you use the 1+ trick, how much does he make in the 5th season? So you could say he started out making 16.56 million, and he's increasing by 8% each year. If I increase by using the 1+ trick, he will make 22.53 million in his 5th season. That was about 3 sentences right there. So you don't have to put all of these because the question only asks the 5th season. So you could say what he started with and that you're increasing it by 8% each year by using the 1+ trick. When I used the 1+ trick, I got 22.53 million in his 5th season. You would think you could just add these percents together and take a 32% increase. But if you find 32% of his original salary, you only get 21.86 million, which is not 22.53 million. So you cannot just add the percent. And that would be it. That was 5 or 6 sentences. If you needed more, and a question I will definitely ask on the test is the total percent increase. If it's not 32, then what is it? And so that's why I found this, so then you could add a little more, plus you have another part of the test, what would be on a test. This does not have to be in there.
So I can, if it makes it easier, I can read what I wrote down, which is well over 5 sentences. I said season 1% change to 2 was 16.56 million. That was period. That was then increased 8% each season for a total of 5 seasons, period. Season 2 to 3 was the answer, period. 3 to 4 was answer, period. 4 to 5 was answer, period. Now, you can't just do 8% times 5 as a shortcut because that will be 21 million, as that is incorrect because each value's percent will be different each time, which is the reason why it needs to be done in a sequential order.
Yes, that works.
Yeah, that works. Sorry, I'm just like confused. I've literally never had to write paragraphs or anything in math. All the math classes.
Oh my gosh.
I guess.
I was thanking my son's teacher the other day because they were doing story problems and he took off on problems where you just put a number because then it's helping them for like this course. This course is being able to explain your answer. It's not as important to get an answer, it's more important to be able to explain it. Because when you're at work and you're totaling, say you're doing sales and you're totaling all your sales and finding all these different probabilities with them, you need to be able to explain it, not say, oh, I got such and such, but what is that number? What's the average stand for? What does it mean? And so that's what this class is. It will help you be able to talk about it more. And so that's why I'm trying not to write all the paragraphs down. I don't care if you get the answer or not. It's how you can explain what it means. Any questions on that? So when it's co-rec parts, you can just give me an answer. But these ones here, the chapter homework, they have to have sentences or paragraphs. I need to make sure you understand. Any questions on that?
Yeah, I wasn't here for 2, so I'll do it on my own. Do you care if it's like at the very end, or do I have to rewrite everything in order?
Oh, that's fine. And
Okay.
I'll be posting these. They take a couple hours because it has to download and then upload. But you could rewatch the recordings to get that part also to make sure you're right. Any other questions? Was everyone okay with setting up? I won't calculate them, but I will help you set them up if there was questions on the co-rec homework. Was everyone able to set these up?
Sorry, what was the question?
Was there any questions on setting the co-rec homework up?
I think I'm okay right now.
Make sure if you round any, I think there was really only one you had to round, but if you are rounding, round to the 10th.
Okay, so I haven't looked at this yet, but in number 2, because we talked about this earlier. Now, if I added 132% to 56, that would give me the 132% plus the 56. So then I would just subtract by 56, and I would find that number.
I don't know if that would work. I would use
Take 56 divided by 136, and that'll get you your number.
1.36, yes. Because it's the percent of what number. So on this one, 130 first needs to be written as a decimal. But it's the percent written as a decimal. Of means multiply. The number is
Oh, okay, yeah, I forgot we did all that.
percent of means multiply. The number we're looking for is means equal. You want to be careful with that. What is, this would mean this is your equal. So what you're looking for is n. N equals, and then percent as a decimal times your 35. But is there any questions on 1 or 3?
You said that the decimal, the percentage would go in the empty parentheses.
But you have to write it as a decimal. So what would 6.2% be written as a decimal? Anyone?
0.062.
So make sure whenever you're taking your percent and putting it into an equation, you change it to a decimal. And likewise, when you find this one, it's going to be a decimal. You have to multiply by 100 to get the percent. Well, in this one, you have to show all three. So make sure you are showing all three on this one.
So since 130% is more than 100% of 56, the original number has to be less, so you divide.
Could you just multiply?
Okay,
Wait,
Okay.
I multiplied for that one.
Yeah, you should divide because this is going to be, well, no, even if it was point, no,
I don't know if I put both my answers down because I tried like both like multiplying and then dividing. I tried like both. Got confused on that one.
I remember there was someone who had both ways.
Yeah, so yeah, that must have been me because like, I got confused on it. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Next time, send me a picture and say, I was thinking this, but now I'm not sure.
Yeah, but at the same time, I do think it's really random that that if I call you again at 8 p.m. like when I'm doing my homework, so it's like when everyone's like winding down. That's me.
If you don't want to call, then just send a picture. And then, because a lot of times in the evenings, between 7 and 9, I tutor people. And so I may be helping somebody. But if you send me a picture, then I can get right back to you as soon as I'm done. So a phone call I might not be able to answer, but if you send a picture, then I can answer it as soon as I'm done. Or leave a message on the phone, that's fine too.
Okay.
For this measuring thing, I'm like half tempted to use my dog, but I know he's gonna be a pain in the ass. Can I just get like a measurement of him and then snap a picture of him?
No, that's cool. Yeah. Or you have like a treat sitting there, so then he won't move because he needs that treat.
Well, it sucks. He's a diabetic, so we can't give him treats.
Oh no. Okay,
at the rate we're going, our cats are gonna be diabetics.
A scoop of yogurt or a carrot. No, carrot's got high sugar. Yeah. No, that would be cool to use your dog though, and that's fun. Measure and draw them out on a cardboard so that you can use that for measuring, and then just put a picture of them. Yeah.
Okay,
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Do we have to write a sentence for each?
For this, no. Just give me the answer.
Okay, thank you.
I'm confused about we're talking about this picture. Is there a discussion board somewhere I don't see?
Oh, there is a discussion board up there.
Is it in week 3?
Yeah, this is week 3. Yeah.
But that's where I would find that discussion board.
Yep.
Oh, measurements. Okay.
Yeah, it's called measurements. And there's a video you can watch. I do the steps you want to go through. You don't have to actually make a video. You need to put pictures of your items. But it's using different things to measure. If we were in class, we'd use a paper clip and measure our paper and figure out the length with paper clips, and then we'd use the paper on the chalkboard and figure out how many paper clips it would take to go across the chalkboard. But since we're at home, we get to be more creative and use other objects. One person used his car, and he measured himself how many of him took up the car. That was kind of different. So to try and find something unique that you have, and I think my example, because my kids play tennis, I used a tennis ball, one of their trophies, and a tennis racket. It doesn't have to all go together. It could be 3 items sitting in front of you, and you can use them.
I thought they had to be bigger than a yard.
I think one of them has to be bigger than a yardstick.
Okay.
But not all of them.
Okay, so you want one item that is bigger than a yardstick for the main item.
The main item had to be bigger than a yardstick.
Yeah, then the 2 other items will be what we're trying to fit within that item.
Right.
Okay.
Actually, I think it's 3. Isn't it 3 items?
Yeah, I wasn't. I was reading the steps, and I wasn't sure if you meant 3 total or 3 small and 1 big.
3 small and 1 big. So your large item you will measure with your 3 smaller items. So we could use, if I wanted, I could use this calculator, I could use this little thing of lead, and my phone. And then I could measure my door, the height of the door behind me, with those 3 items.
A quick question for you.
For number 3, would it be like set up as 57N equals 18.24?
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
For the big item, can we just, if I use myself, I'm exactly 6 foot, do I have to show a measurement of me?
I forget what it said. Did it say to show the measurement?
It says, post a picture of an object that you want to measure that is larger than a yardstick.
Yeah, so it's just the picture, and then you'd say how long it is using. That's fine.
So I'll just post a picture of me, and then I would say I'm 6 feet.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's going to be kind of hard unless someone else is helping you measure whatever those items are to count them.
Yeah, that's why I was asking if I had to post a picture.
No, you don't have to post the picture, but you do have to, like, if we're using the phone, how many phones it takes to reach your height. But you could lay down and have somebody else measure how many of whatever items you're using. Or in, like, I have a cement basement, so I could use chalk. I could lay down and someone can mark where my heel is and where my head is, and then I can use the items to measure the distance. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if I try and do it myself, this is 1 phone, this is 2, but then as soon as you start bending over, it's a little hard to do that. But if you can, it's fine. Does everyone know what we're talking about? Have you all looked at the, let's see if I can bring it up. Stop sharing. For some reason, when I'm sharing and I go to another one, it doesn't like it.
Oh, your screen is gray.
Yeah, it's not cooperating. I was trying to switch to Google so that I could bring up.
Oh, now I see it.
Okay. So then we want to go to here. So everyone can see Blackboard, right?
Yeah.
Under week 3, there is measurement. So you want to watch the video, post a picture of an object that you want to measure that's larger than a yardstick. So in my case example, I just used was the door. In the video, I use a chalkboard. I have a chalkboard. And then measure it in feet. So I would measure how many feet. Then give it in inches and centimeters. So you find it in feet, find it in inches, and find it in centimeters. Now you can just convert your feet to inches and centimeters, that's fine. Find 3 different size items like I did in the video. So the 3 items that you find need to be smaller than your first. That way you can see how many they would take to go across. How long is the pictured item in terms of each of these? So if I was using my door, I'd say how many phones long it was if I used the phone. For the calculator, I'd say how many calculators long it was. And then for the lead, the little lead case, I'd say how many of them it took. So you just count how many of them. And you'll see in the video how I did it. and then you convert to feet, inches, and centimeters. Only use a measuring tape or yardstick or ruler for the pictured item. So when I ask you how long the other 3 items are, you should be doing them without measuring them. You should be doing them by using the length of your big object. And you'll see in the video, I did it on the video. Any questions on that? If you're typing, for some reason I didn't have the chat up, I'm sorry. Is it okay? Yes, you can use a tape measure for your long item. For the other items, you do not want to measure them with a measuring utensil. You want to use your other measurements. And when you'll watch the video, you'll see that. Number 3 on here or on homework?
And when is that measurement thing due?
Sunday. So everything's due on Sunday. Don't forget, you have to do the responses for the discussion board last week, if you didn't already. So what I did was each time the discussion board to do, the responses are not due till the last week. Because what happened before was there wasn't enough people who had done it, like they do wait till the last minute. And then people who like to do stuff at the beginning couldn't do those responses until the last minute. So this way I do it the following week as your responses. I didn't want to have things due on different days. So this way everything's due on Sunday. So your main post is due this Sunday, and then next week you'll respond to people's things. Now, if enough people have it up there and you want to get it done early, you can. But it was just sometimes people were putting it off. And so then they didn't have enough people to respond to.
So we can still go back and do it.
Right. So like the responses for last week, you want to make sure you do them this week. Unless you've already done them, then you don't have to worry about it. Someone asked about number 3 using the 1+ trick. And I don't know. Sorry. We did not use the 1+ trick. Yeah, you could use the 1+ trick. I think relative percent change is easier though. Because of the values you have, I wouldn't use the 1+ trick. I would use this one. Any other questions? So if you came in a little late and missed the beginning, hopefully within the next 2 hours, I will get this video up. But is there any other questions? If there are no questions, if there's no questions, I will see you on Friday.